And let's get going. Okay. Hello, everyone. Good. Welcome to our webinar, Preparing for AI, Governance, Data, and Security Essentials. Brod, I might have to ask you to slide through. Yeah, thank you. So firstly, like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're all residing today around Australia, and pay our respects to elders past and present. My name's Jason Hardy. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Digital Village. And before we dive in, I just want to take a moment to introduce you to Digital Village and our School of Innovation. Digital Village is a professional network of independent technology and data practitioners. And we form teams to work with organizations to design and build software products and services to improve customer experience and business efficiencies. And the School of Innovation is an initiative that we've designed to help organizations learn about, experiment with, and successfully integrate AI into their businesses. And we do this via a series of workshops and webinars and more specifically tailored programs, and just like this one that we're doing today. So we are fortunate to have two Digital Village members with us today, experienced practitioners who bring extensive expertise in AI governance, data security, and digital transformation. First, I'd like to introduce Edward Morris, a senior consultant at Transform Logic, who brings 20 years of experience in the digital and data product development. Edward's expertise lies in applying risk controls through the development process and creating robust AI governance solutions. His work has helped numerous organizations enhance their customer experience while maintaining strict data security and governance standards. Alongside Edward, Broderick Smith is the Managing Director of Transform Logic, with over 28 years of experience in the technology industry. Broderick specializes in IT strategy and information governance. As a respected industry leader, he's been recognized as a 3-time CRN Fast 50 honoree and a Fintech industry award winner for innovation. Broderick's passion lies in helping organizations navigate complex IT challenges, making the journey smoother and more successful for their clients. And together, Transform Logic provides IT strategic planning, automation, and information security services, and have delivered over 100 successful digital transformation projects in the financial services sector, aged care, healthcare, community services, mining, and infrastructure. So today, the webinar couldn't be more timely as Australian privacy and data regulations continue to evolve, with new ISO and Australian standards for AI being implemented and government principles for responsible AI use being established. Organizations face increasing pressure to get AI governance right. And the statistics tell us that over 50% of organizations are delaying their AI initiatives due to concerns about data governance and security. So today, Broderick and Edward will help demystify these challenges and provide you with the practical strategies to move forward with confidence. And in the next 45 minutes, cover what are the business risks of AI, what AI governance means and how it addresses issues like compliance and risk management, and the opportunities when adopting a robust AI governance framework, and finally some practical strategies for constructing an AI governance framework. Very quickly, just some housekeeping before we hand over. If you have any questions throughout the session, drop them in the Q&A box in the bottom right. You'll see the little shapes there, the triangle, square, and the circle. Pop them in there, and then we'll address them at the end. And if we don't get through them all, we'll email out the answers afterwards. As I said before, we'll be recording this session today, and we'll send you the recording of the replay of it early next week, along with 2 other valuable resources, which you will receive that being like a AI readiness assessment tool, and that will help you kind of benchmark your organization against your industry peers, evaluate your readiness across key areas, including data governance, strategy, ethics, and leadership, and provide personalized insight and recommendations for your AI journey. So that's one tool that you will receive. And secondly, you will also get Edwards and Broderick's comprehensive AI governance handbook, which includes the latest regulations and compliance requirements, Australian AI principles and standards, and practical governance frameworks. So these resources are quite valuable for organizations starting their AI governance journey. So make sure you hang around until the end to get access to those assets. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Edward and Brod. Enjoy the webinar, everyone, and we'll catch you towards the end.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jason. And thank you, Digital Village, for setting this presentation up. Yeah, as Jason said, it's very timely that we're talking about AI governance. Lots of changes in the regulatory standards and principles world. There's a huge change and reform around concerns, but also opportunities. So as Jason was saying, you know, we're going to look at those where AI has come from, not all the way back to the dawn of time, but you know, why is that latest rise in popularity and surge, and what are those risks that are really being applied from an AI perspective. We'll have a look at the understanding AI governance and responsibility, what that governance means and how it addresses issues such as compliance and risk management. Then we'll explore the opportunities that arise when you adopt such a robust AI governance framework. And finally, we'll look at practical strategies for constructing an AI governance, you know, with a specific kind of view around, you know, what that strategic alignment looks like that can help future-proof your business. So as I mentioned, the rise of AI has come from many different facets. Popularity has really surged in recent years, as I'm sure everyone on this call will be fully aware of. And it's an exponential advancement in technology. And the reasons behind this is around, you know, not just cloud computing and big data. That's just really one angle. It's really the rapid evolution of AI models themselves. These advanced capabilities are really meeting a strong demand from businesses eager to leverage AI, obviously to save costs, but also to improve efficiency and gain that all-important competitive edge with advanced decision-making abilities. This surge is really also further fueled by massive investments from those looking to capitalize on the big opportunity, on the next big opportunity. Customer expectations are also surging, so direct accessibility to AI solutions has skyrocketed. Think ChatGPT on your phone or integrated AI tools like Google Workspace and Microsoft Copilot. Some of you are probably already using those. And now, you know, just in recent days, we've just seen the release of the self-proclaimed Apple Intelligence, using the AI acronyms very well, which they just launched on the latest iOS this week. So really, in essence, the rise of AI is driven by demand and opportunity mainly, but it's around powerful models, eager adoption that we're seeing throughout the business world, substantial investments, and those widespread accessibility demands. So on the next slides, I think, Broderick, you wanted to introduce this Halloween-appropriate scary slide. So
spooky.
I'll over to you.
Spooky. I won't steal Ed's thunder on the actual content of the slide, but I heard a few giggles when the slide came up. And yes, this, for those of us who remember the original 1984 Terminator movie, it was kind of our first real sort of visual foray into sort of what AI might do in the future, and we've kind of lived this drama through various decades now. There's a great book by a guy called Max Tegmark, who is a professor at MIT Boston, the infamous Massachusetts Information Technology University. He wrote a book called Life 3.0. If you haven't read it, write it down, pick it up, give it a read. It's like, you know, $30 on most of the online bookstores now. That is an interesting, it's factual, it's non-fiction look at everything from the very, I suppose, you know, far left view of AI, and we'll have it all heavily regulated globally, and it will, you know, help us for good, not evil, all the way through to the far right extreme of, yes, AI will end up being smarter than us, take over, and what is I suppose, hence the title of the book, Life 3.0. What does our lives as humans look like in an AI world? That was written in 2017. It is slightly outdated now because AI has advanced so rapidly since then, and I think he's thinking about updating it with a newer version. But it is factual, so he does talk about all the things that are going on in the world around AI governance, which is the topic of this conversation. And I suppose where it really gets to is what the world is doing or needs to do with respect to governing AI on a global scale. Today, we're obviously talking about your business, and we're talking about the Australian context, but I just want to throw this little segue in and also say that on a global scale, the United Nations, like most sort of international treaty-based policies, do have multiple working groups for AI. They also have a sort of a pulse advisory group that looks at AI as things get rolled out real time, and we've also got a long-term advisory group as well. Now we'll probably see, you know, we'll probably see Terminator, but what we'll probably see is, you know, AI being governed on a global scale from a treaty perspective, with most developing nations signing up to that. When, we don't know, but it'll probably look like a nice kind of future for AI for all of us. And I think what most, you know, I'm not a futurist, but what most futurists are probably saying is that, you know, undeveloped nations or those who want to use AI for evil will probably have them sitting there in the background, and we'll have this kind of AI Cold War, much like nuclear weapons. So anyway, just a little segue, but pick up Life 3.0 and have a read. It's really interesting. Have you, Ed?
Thanks, Brod. Yeah, it's a really, really interesting topic, and you know, we're talking obviously a factual governance approach, but there's a lot of futurist views out there that kind of give us some insight into what's potentially is coming, but it's a very rapidly changing environment. So while AI offers those many benefits, it really shows that rapid adoption comes with substantial risks, particularly around data security, privacy, and fairness. But if we break this down and we start looking at, you know, the rate of adoption and how the adoption is accelerating, data governance frameworks struggle to keep pace. Increasing risks of non-compliance, data mismanagement, and ungoverned access to sensitive data can be missed or kind of late to the game. So it's although rapid adoption isn't really a risk itself, it's more of an awesome outcome from a business perspective. It's the speed of adoption that can pose those risks to non-compliance and ungoverned access to sensitive information. Data privacy concerns is obviously a really hot topic at the moment. AI systems frequently process personal and sensitive data, and that amplifies the risk of data breaches and privacy violations. Strong governance practices and compliance with those data protection laws are really essential to safeguard against threats. Algorithmic biases, we've all seen these in the news recently. Unchecked AI algorithms can really introduce biases into decision making, potentially leading to discriminatory outcomes, but having a robust governance and regular auditing of AI models are critical, really, to ensure they remain fair and accountable in data handling, while also addressing those responsibility and ethical concerns. I mean, it's a hot topic at the moment. You know, a great example was the Amazon AI, their recruitment tool that went wrong, where it was showing bias against women. They built it back in 2014, and it was being trained over a number of years. And in the last, I think it was about 2018, they noticed that, you know, the hiring tool had a major flaw, that it was biased against the women that it was looking at. So even though it was trained for a long period of time, it just showed that the data going in, and most of the resumes were submitted by men, that the system taught itself to really favor those male candidates. You know, the algorithm's kind of doing what it's told. It's working on the data that's been fed, but it's learning by itself, and that's the monitoring that we can't see. So it's a really dangerous aspect. Same with Google, much more recently with their Gemini AI incident. I'm sure everyone heard about this in February 2024. They were aiming to generate diverse historical figures, but those images that are generated of white figures were founding fathers, Nazi soldiers, and it was obviously depicted as racially undiverse. So raising concerns about accuracy again. So it's just goes to show garbage in, garbage out. But without having those monitors and those checks and balances, we don't know. You can't be sure that the algorithms are working in the way they're intended. Another key fact is around information misuse. It's a key risk because it's a potential misuse or manipulation of information, whether it's intentional or not. It could lead to biased decisions like we just saw with Google and Amazon. But it can also mean privacy breaches and misrepresentation of data. So without those proper safeguards, the impact of that type of misuse can be significant for businesses. And finally, security risk, major risk with AI. So we hear just as we started talking about the amount of breaches and cyber incidents that happen on a daily basis, astronomical, and those are the ones that are just being reported to the cyber authorities. So there's a lot more that we're not aware of. It has a potential to be exploited or attacked, infrastructure systems that can lead to unauthorized access, data breaches, and disruptions to service. The vulnerabilities often lie in the AI algorithms themselves, the way data is protected, and the integrity of those outputs and how they're generated. So all very key risks, and put in red and terminators to kind of bring that risk back. So we're just going to pause for a poll that we've got a couple of questions, so we'd just like the audience to participate. It's really just kind of give us a bit of an insight into where everyone is thinking and what their current situation is. So that should be coming up on your screens soon. Is that right, Jason?
Yeah, you should see them. Yeah, you can see people voting now. It's just if you don't see, it's in the bar on the right-hand side of your screen.
So I'll just give some time for people to vote. You can see things coming in, Jason.
Yeah.
I think Broderick and I will refrain from voting as much as we'd like to participate. I don't want to skew the numbers.
Jason, I'm looking at it on my phone, so I can't really see anything other than the poll slide at the top.
If you go to one of the icons around,
touched them all.
Activities, I think. I'm using mobile too,
activities.
so
Oh yeah,
activities.
got it.
So 3 shapes at the bottom.
Interesting.
How many people we got in the room, Jason? Is it
There's about 25 of us.
25? Okay. I'll highlight some data points for us.
So there's been about 10 votes. So do go in and place your vote. It's interesting to see where everyone is at on their journey. Helps
Exactly.
us speak to people's different needs as well. Okay, we'll give it 30 seconds.
Like a countdown clock.
Yeah.
Yes. Dun, 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 dun.
Rightio. Let's move on. Okay, I think that ending the poll. It should all see the results there coming up on your screen as well. Everyone should see those.
Jason, probably because we didn't participate, we can't see the results.
No,
Oh,
they're
they're
No,
coming
we
up.
can. No, they are.
Okay. So these are interesting numbers. So we've got 2 people who've already fully implemented AI governance policy in development, and majority of not but planning to create one. Yeah, so that's great to see that, you know, those AI governance policies for those 2 people or 5 people are in development or in place. That's really interesting. And then data privacy and risk management being the primary concern. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with all of the breaches and penalties for non-compliance, that's a little bit interesting, but risk management is what it's all about. What do you think, Brod?
Yeah, I think that yeah, it's kind of standard bell curve kind of opinions here. Most of the clients we speak to haven't got a AI governance framework, but are planning on, because they are either already adopting early AI in their business, even if it's just Copilot, or looking to build out something more sophisticated if they've already got a data lake. And then, you know, current client we're working on right now, and some of our findings.
Just yesterday we were having that conversation.
Yeah. And I think with respect to concerns, yeah, I think this doesn't surprise me that sort of ethical implications are not higher at the moment, because, you know, privacy in the Privacy Act is such an important topic of conversation in Australia at the moment. And, you know, we're certainly seeing this shift slowly in our enterprise clients, at least. They've not started, but they're kind of, you know, they've got their cybersecurity controls in place over the last sort of 10 to 15 years, and now they're moving more onto that data governance and trying to combat any kind of security around data at rest, like data loss prevention technologies and things. So data privacy is very much front and center of a lot of organizations. And I think, you know, having the majority of votes on data privacy, and of course risk management, kind of overarches all of these. You know, everything you do in data privacy is with a risk lens, and, you know, you just have to go to a privacy impact analysis questionnaire to show that.
I think we can talk about these topics for
another
days.
Again, other webinars or podcasts. Watch this space. And the last one, which aspect of AI governance do you believe is most critical? We've got 2 votes for transparency, 4 for accountability, 1 for fairness, and 6 for security. So again, security is coming on hard and fast there, but it's actually encouraging. We don't always see this, but accountability with 4 votes is actually encouraging to see from this group. I think, you know, Ed, you can attest to this, but a lot of our work around fit for purpose policy assessment in organizations, accountability is nowhere to be seen. It's one of the gaps we talk about the most. So it's great. This group is seeing accountability as one of the most critical aspects of AI governance. So good work. Nice to see, refreshing to see.
Yeah. Right. So I think we'll move on now. So thank you everyone for the answers, participation. So next we're going to go, and for the 2 people who've already fully implemented this, you're going to know all about this, but for those who haven't, we're looking at what is AI governance? I mean, it's essential to mitigate those risks. So we're talking risk management and that overarching oversight, which are associated with API while harnessing its full power. But in a nutshell, AI governance is the framework. And it's the framework that ensures ethical, transparent, and responsible use of AI systems. But it does that by managing those risks, ensuring compliance to local regulatory laws, and promoting accountability and decision making. And that protects businesses and society as well from an ethical standpoint from those potential harms. But let's break it down, and we'll go through each point. The regulatory compliance side, it's about ensuring that your AI systems comply with existing laws like Privacy Act 1988, which we know we're having reform in the next year or so. And it's also around the standards of information security, so ISO 27001, around the establishing, implementing, maintaining, and continually improving that information security management system. That's a key governance framework item within all businesses. But it really keeps businesses prepared for future regulations, both domestically and globally, for businesses who operate internationally. But we'll go into those more detail a little bit later. Risk management, another key word. I think that's going to come up most times in this presentation. But it's really about setting up that structured approach to managing risks. It helps you identify and assess those risks related to data security, your operational integrity, and those ethical consideration. Creates the mitigation plan to really handle these risks before they become larger issues. Responsible AI use is ensuring AI is used ethically and promoting fairness, minimizing that bias that we've talked about before, protecting that personal data, all critical components. But the outcome of applying these approaches is that it builds trust among stakeholders, absolutely, but with your clients as well, and how it aligns with the AI systems with societal and legal standards. Accountability and transparency is obviously key to monitoring and understanding your AI systems. And it provides those clear lines of accountability. Talking organizational style, design and ways of working. But it really ensures that those decisions made by AI systems from a technical standpoint are transparent, explainable and traceable. And that's really crucial for building trust and demonstrating compliance. So on the next slide, Broderick, I know you had some insight around the AI regulatory landscape that you wanted to share with the group, so I'll pass over.
Thanks, Ed. So yeah, I talked briefly a couple of minutes ago on, I suppose, that global landscape, but here in Australia, and what's important for Australian, I suppose, all the way from small to enterprise-sized businesses, what's the landscape look like now? What's the evolving sort of landscape look like, and what do we expect in the future? So, as you all know, Australia is actively shaping its AI regulatory landscape at the moment. Now, we'll talk about some of these things in the next couple of minutes around how Australia is specifically doing that. Australia is looking to balance innovation with that because, as you saw in the last federal budget, there's a big spend on innovation in Australia and keeping things in Australia, specifically with technology. But we know that Australia needs a lot more regulation on governance of not just privacy, but AI in general. We've got our existing Privacy Act of 1988. Everyone should know and love that. And if you don't, please become very aware of that. And the Australian privacy principles are supremely important to this. As you probably all have heard, they are being updated at the moment, and there is a reading in Parliament happening at the moment through the first tranche of changes to that. We thought that the Privacy Act was going to be a big bang with respect to a change, but it's coming out in at least 3 or 4 different tranches of change over the next 12 to 24 months. Now we'll talk about the main, I suppose, crux of the changes to the Privacy Act and how that relates to AI in a moment. We've got the global frameworks, which Australia is certainly having a good hard look at, such as the EU AI Act. That's influencing Australian policy, especially with respect to the guardrails that came out last month. And I suppose, it's like everything we do in our consulting world, Ed and I does, we prepare business for what might be coming ahead. And then there are certain things we know are definitely happening because the government has said they're definitely happening, and there are things that we need to prepare for because the government has said these are up for comment and change, and these might actually happen. It's likely that compliance obligations will require business to really conduct AI audits regularly. That is not law at the moment, but is looking very likely, to basically make sure that organisation systems are secure, unbiased, and ethical. And we'll talk about those shortly. I suppose preparing yourself for these changes now through AI governance frameworks will give you, I suppose, the edge and a competitive advantage to be able to react and pivot as these pieces of legislation change. So let's just talk through these three that are on the screen at the moment. So what's the current landscape? Australia has adopted the international standard 4201 for AI management systems. Now, not a lot of people realise that Australia did this. It's fairly new, but the ISO 4201 is a comprehensive guide or standard for AI management. It talks a lot about governance in there. It talks a lot about model development and setup. Again, if you haven't read it, it is available on Australian Standards website. It's about $320 to download. It's a PDF. It's very, very important that anyone going down the AI path does understand these standards. Now, like any ISO, you don't have to, be fully 100% compliant and do an audit to them, but they do provide you some excellent guidance material on what is kind of recommended from a best practice global perspective on AI management. One thing that kind of slipped through the radar as well that not a lot of people know about is the Australian Department of Industry, Science and Resources AI principles. There are 8 ethical principles that have been published by the Australian government to guide organisations in Australia of any size, and they really prioritise human-centred values, ethical responsibility, trust and safety when I suppose you're designing and developing your AI systems and tools. So please, again, have a look at those, look that up, just type in Department of Industry AI principles. It'll be the first page you find. It goes through the 8 in detail. We've also got that in our quick reference book that we'll provide after this webinar as well. Ed also mentioned ISO 27001, which is the information security standard. Now, it's not particularly specifically aligned to AI, but with all of these kind of regulations around information security, there is a linkage on how you develop your AI management systems to actually interact with data in order to keep it secure. And a lot of things, in many cases, what we see from our own audits and assessments of our clients' technology and ecosystem is that they spend a crazy amount of money on the cybersecurity to make sure role-based access is in place at the platform level, etc. Then they go build this fantastic data lake. It's amazing. They lose an element of security there. People have access to Power BI. They forget there's a download button. Then all of a sudden the data is downloadable. People have access to that data. And if you've got business corporate sensitive or you've got PII data in that, that's very important to keep protected. And now what we're seeing as well as an extrapolation to that is AI models having access to either complete applications, tables or data lakes. And again, being, I suppose, built out so damn quickly that people are really forgetting that information security layer on top of it. Evolving regulations, as I've already mentioned, the Privacy Act is changing quite dramatically. Would be a fair word to say. It's not small changes. The Australian Privacy and Other Amendment Act, I love that other. There are actually 7 other primary pieces of legislation that will change in collaboration with the Privacy Act. So it's not just purely the Privacy Act, so it's an important point as well. Where the main alignment, apart from having more, I suppose, statutory tort law around actual legal ramifications for organisations who disclose information, whether it be unknowingly or knowingly. One of the main, I suppose, linkages to AI and what we're talking about now around governance is having a large emphasis and focus on the transparency of your AI systems in their automated decision making, or what they call ADM processes. Now, again, that's for comment and draft at the moment. What that looks like in law, we're actually not too sure of at the moment. But there is a big linkage there. That is the Privacy Act's main link into AI. So have a Google around ADM and the Privacy Act Amendment Act and refresh yourselves on that. And it's likely, if you are familiar with the Australian privacy principles, it's likely that there'll be major amendments to 1.7 and 1.8 around those. Future compliance, what are we sort of seeing and hearing around lawmakers and I suppose legal firms around what the future might look for us? What we've seen in September was the Australian government coming out with these new AI guardrails. Again, you can Google Australian government AI guardrails and find those. There is a significant push for the Australian government to make some, I suppose, governance around AI actual law in Australia. At the moment, we don't know whether they're going to have any kind of statutory tort criminal legislation behind it, but it does look to be pushing ahead. You've got organisations such as PwC recommending that those laws are not too strong, or they don't become laws at all, and that standards are good enough. So there's going to be a lot of hot debate in the next couple of months around these AI guardrails and what that looks like. It's early days. The government announced it, I think, on the 15th of September. So that's kind of out for comment at the moment, and you can find that on Australian government's website. As I said, we're going to have the enhanced privacy laws as well. We'll face stricter compliance with data privacy legislation, specifically in the areas of handling personal information, how systems, not just people, handle information, cross-border information. So if you're feeding your data into overseas AI engines, there's an alignment there. And also, there's going to be a major push in the Privacy Act changes, which I did mention above, with respect to specific children's privacy information and what that looks like. So if you are doing AI models in the medical space, or where you're working with children, be aware that there are going to be new legislated laws around PII data with respect to underage Australian human beings. I think the other thing that will be on the agenda, and very likely to be a global play, but very, very, I suppose, forthright in Australia with respect to auditing, is your AI management systems and models. I think, in the next sort of 10 years, it'll become standard that audit practices, such as the top 4 middle tier consultancies, will have frameworks for auditing your AI models to ensure that principles are upheld. If there are any legislated guardrails from a legislative perspective, they'll be auditable, and you'll see, those top and mid-tier consultancy firms, or anyone really, coming out with a checklist or an audit or an assessment focus on how your AI models are fair and ethical and don't have bias, so that no, I suppose, member of the Australian public is affected negatively by any kind of AI development in Australia. Back to you, Ed.
Thanks, Brod. I just saw Libby's question or comment around the Microsoft releasing a framework for their Microsoft for non-profits area. It's quite topical, so I just kind of wanted to raise that, Brod, as you were talking about regulations and the like, and businesses are reacting. And it's, helping organizations navigate the AI adoption and the management of AI systems. And a lot of our clients are not-for-profits and community and housing providers, and we're having those conversations as well. So it's very topical, and it just shows how relevant and how important all industry sectors are taking this. So it's a good point.
I saw that, Libby. Thank you. And what we might do, I might just quickly touch on that as well when we come to the question and answer session, if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure. So in this infographic, I think it's a good kind of representation, and it's a good insight into see, on a global scale, that those policies being developed and the initiatives, engagements are increasing, both cross-industry, but also with bilateral activities with other countries. And Australia are they're among the leaders in this area. So they're working to establish comprehensive AI regulations, principles, and standards. That's really going to ensure the AI tech is safe, secure, and ethical. It really shows that it's about remaining competitive, remaining compliant in the global marketplace. But it shows a clear indication that the government has concern around AI use and safety, of course, which is why we're talking about risks of AI. But it also shows that they have a commitment to innovation and wants to be the leader in this AI space. So it's a really telling infographic here, as you can see. The US is streaks ahead with, I think, what, about 87 initiatives on the go at the moment, but Australia are around the same as the European countries. So I think we'll move on to the next slide here, Brod, please, where we start to talk about the. Oh, sorry, no, we've done that already, so we'll pass that for now. So we'll have all three in one go. So let's move on to, we've had a lot about risks, we've had a lot about concerns, we've had a lot about regulations and discriminators coming to take our jobs and the like. But what opportunities does an AI governance framework give you? It's what's in it for your business? Because a strong AI governance framework, it really offers some key benefits. Straight off the bat, we can see that fortifying your data security will be a huge benefit, because you'll be able to uncover where your sensitive data is stored and be able to ensure that it's adequately protected. It's really crucial, as AI systems often process your employees and your clients and your vendors and your strategic partners' sensitive information and confidential information. Regulatory compliance. We've talked about this quite a few times, but having a solid framework in place, you'll stay more compliant with evolving regulations, not just the current ones, but the evolving ones that Brod mentioned that we see is coming down the path. Reducing the risks of fines and penalties, which, looking at GDPR and EU AI Act in Europe, we can already see that there's a timeline for businesses to adopt these. They have, I think, about 3 or 4 years to put their framework in place. Where if they don't, and they haven't shown that they're moving towards this regulatory state or this compliance state, then the fines are starting at 7.5 million euros, or 5% of their annual revenue. So they're taking it seriously in the EU, and that's influencing Australia as well. So we see this coming. Accurate and reliable data, key to any data governance and data architect geek out there, myself included. This is the basis of all of your data governance approaches, because we need to ensure that data is accurate, it's up to date, so there's no legacy data there, and it's trustworthy, most important of all. It's really essential for making sound business decisions going forward and building AI systems that deliver consistent and accurate results. Elevated trust and reputation, touched on this before, but it's quite obvious that if you don't have transparent and ethical AI practices in place, your clients, your consumers, public, private, customer clients are not going to have that trust that you have their information secure, and there's the adequate security around it. Reputation damage and reputation impact is a real thing, and it's essential, and I'm sure everyone on this call fully understands that. Operational efficiency and innovation, standardizing processes makes that easier to scale AI across your organization. Fostering innovation while ensuring compliance and ethical use gives your business a competitive edge in a rapidly evolving marketplace. And it is evolving rapidly, as we see in the last couple of years. All right, so we're going to move on to some practical strategies. So we can see we're running out of time, but we'll get through as many as we can. So yeah, it's about building strong AI governance framework, right? But how do we do that? What's the step-by-step process? Assessment or establishing principles is one of the key foundational steps in building that framework out. Guiding principles and standards of what your business is looking to achieve and what you're going to be guided by. Think of this as layering the groundwork for AI governance. So those fundamental foundational steps, ensuring that every decision, process, and practice that follows remains aligned with your organization's core goals and values. This should really include principles regarding your responsibility and ethical decision-making that will flow through to your AI systems. Assessing maturity and capability, we touched on this before, a huge benefit. If you evaluate your business's current data sets and scope, your current AI capabilities and governance practices, then you're already halfway there to understanding where your data is, what you're trying to achieve, and what solution that you're looking for. It really must include capabilities internally and through partnerships. So it's not just an internal capability, but who you're partnered with and your third-party partnerships, and how you develop those AI models, and most importantly, sustain them in an ongoing fashion. Yeah, that governance structure, very important to define the processes and structures that guide AI deployment. Assigning key roles and responsibilities to ensure that accountability will help streamline your decision-making and foster collaboration to form your operation model. This really creates a unified approach to effectively managing AI initiatives across your organization. And finally, implementing those policies. Establishing the necessary procedures to manage the AI systems throughout their life cycle is crucial, which in turn will implement controls on your business operations. This can include setting up regular audits, monitoring systems and reviews of compliance against both your principles and any developing regulations. But in that time, it's also ensuring your governance practices evolve alongside your AI systems development. Next one, we're looking around how you align your AI with organization goals and values. AI governance isn't just about mitigating those risks, obviously incredibly important as we saw in the poll, but it's also about aligning AI with your broader organization goals. So this means AI initiatives should support your business strategy, a key aspect, whether that's improving your customer service, optimizing operations, or just generally just driving your innovation. 2 would be around governance that helps AI systems reflect your business's value, from data ethics to responsible AI use. Additionally, it's also important to measure the performance of your AI systems regularly to really understand its impact and ensure it's delivering that value that it's intended and designed to. And lastly, it's around stakeholder engagement, making sure your employees, customers, and partners are part of the conversation to drive that adoption and trust. The third practical strategy we see is extremely important, is around how to ensure the responsible, transparent, and secure use of AI. 3 main parts. It's about designing those principles, implementing your data governance, management practices, and being transparent and accountability throughout the system. 1, building a framework that embeds your ethical considerations into the design phase, which will mean that thinking about data privacy, security, and fairness, from the very start, and how that ensures the AI systems align with legal standards and ethical principles. So you're creating that ethical design from the very start. Implementing strong data governance practices, such as data classification, encryption, access control. It will protect sensitive information and comply with those regulations, like the Privacy Act 1988 that we mentioned. So you will remain secure and compliant. Transparency and accountability. How do we ensure AI decisions are explainable and that accountability is clearly, and that accountability of those decisions is clearly assigned? This will really build trust with your stakeholders, make it easier to demonstrate compliance. Demonstration, as Brod talked about, those future regulations we see them being a lot more specific to AI, and having to being audited and being able to provide proof that your transparency and your AI algorithms are doing exactly what they said they would do. So it's really a performance report. What's important here is the monitoring mechanism. It's measuring the effectiveness of the framework with feedback loops built in to show that they're built in to develop and continue developing your continuous improvement approach. Mechanisms should be really coupled with and established. They should be coupled with an established governance structure to ensure models are operating ethically. Obviously, extremely important, but security is complying with those regulations.
Ed, do you want me to just quickly talk through this slide? So we're very short of time.
Yeah, let's go through it. Yeah, finish off.
Okay, so just this is based on our experience through I suppose decades of general governance consulting, especially around data and cyber. But what we're seeing in the last kind of 24 months with our clients is these three top things. One is data quality. We're seeing a lot of organisations just throw everything at AI and not really want to comprehend what should be going into their models. There's a lot of gaps in data. There's a lot of gaps in tables and fields, even if they're using things like Salesforce, or they're using data all the way back to the 60s, which is not relevant. So it's really skewing results. Cross-functional collaboration. We're seeing a lot of AI stood up, even with respect to Copilot, just by the IT team, and maybe someone in strategy. But there needs to be a lot of cross-functional collaboration in an organisation to get AI to work properly and successfully. You've got to understand the privacy obligations, security obligations, compliance obligations. You've got to test the inputs and the outputs of that model, and then test it against your own governance strategy, which we're talking about today, to ensure that all works. And the last one is organisational change, or I suppose just we can talk that through from a change management perspective. There's a lot, there's a big shift in the organisation that needs to occur with respect to how AI is adopted and what use cases you use, but also through organisational design. So who is going to help stand it up? And as Ed mentioned, are you using internal resources, third-party resources? What does that look like? How do you sustain it moving forward? You don't just build it. It's not like a widget where you just build a box and you ship it off and it never changes again. AI needs to live and breathe. So how do you sustain it moving forward? If you find something, who's responsible for changing, etc. So there's a lot in that change management or organizational design component that needs to be considered.
Really important points there. So I think, we could probably, we've just got one left here. So I think, Brod, you wanted just to touch on Libby's question.
Let's just go straight into I think we'll recap. We've talked about the rise and the risks. We've talked about governance itself and why that's important. We've talked about regulations and the evolving landscape. We've talked about some practical examples of where to start with AI governance, and we've also just looked at some strategies and other bits and pieces. So I'm just keen to, it's right on the o'clock and people probably have to go, but if you can stay on, we welcome any questions. You can throw them in the chat. We'll start with Libby. If Libby, you can stay on, if you can. If you can't, that's fine too. We're very aware of the Microsoft new policy framework. We love it. I suppose where we see that framework coming to play is in the implementation stage, not in the governance stage. And so really, if we go back up to this one, Where the Microsoft comes into play is number 4, implementing policies. It's a policy framework. Where the Microsoft not-for-profit policy set falls short is the first 3. So it doesn't establish principles, it doesn't look at your maturity and capability to build and support it, and it doesn't talk about governance structures, but it is certainly an excellent model for number 4. And again, topic for another webinar, and that would be implementation of AI and what you need to consider there.
As everyone can see, there's so many topics out here, and we wanted to give you guys as much information as we possibly could. And those practical strategies are, I think Jason's going to share them with the group afterwards. So you can read through them in your own time. But we tried to get as much information out in this. I wish we had about 45 minutes. So appreciate it.
We've still got about 12 or 13 people on. If there's any questions, put them in the chat. I am looking at them right now.
Yeah, I mean, just while I've got, because people are kind of dropping off, everyone will have just received an email to schedule if you want to chat with the guys, you can book in with them via that email. So you just want to do that now. That's kind of a last kind of offering for now. But thanks guys for that kind of really useful insights. I hope everyone found it valuable. And yeah, so if anyone, I just wanted to let everyone know that you can check your inbox for that now. We'll be sending out a recording of this and any other answers to the Q&As in an email, along with the other assets like the handbook and the AI assessment tool after this. But if you are available to hang around for a conversation now with Edward and Broderick, you're welcome to do so.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. It's been fantastic. Thanks, Jason. Thanks for organising Digital Village.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're certainly here. I think everyone's got our contact details or through Jason, and you can set up a session with us, and we're happy to spend 30 minutes with you chatting through your needs or any questions you may have.
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day, everyone, and we will be in touch via email and other means.
Excellent.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks,
everyone.
Perfect.
Thank you.